leader of the 3rd Squad of the Shinsengumi.
The Shizo Hijikata, assistant leader of the Shinsengumi. Okita, I recommend that you stand down. That man over there, the infamous Batosai, the master. People's wolves are here. It's the Shinsengumi.
What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 50 review. Alright, let's go right into the review. I have some observations I want to point out with you guys. There will be discussion as well in a few days, so hopefully these observations give us some good discussion. But yeah, let's get to it. So right off the bat, we see these firing, the bullets firing from the gun all across the Goryokaku. So Goryokaku is the location, the Star Fortress where Kenshin and the others are headed, where Byakuya is being held as a prisoner. And of course, you got these bullets flying towards, this is the rock user that's tunneling underground. And then, of course, he comes up from the ground and all these rocks are being flung at him, flung at his face. It's kind of funny when you think about it. He's a rock user, so of course he uses rocks. But the fact that he's a rock himself, apparently, I'm not going to spoil you, but the body is pretty much rock. So, but anyways, that's Doi. Pretty cool, the rock user. And then, of course, you see these bullets flying towards him. Gongo's here with Amachi. Amachi says, he's basically telling him there's something coming. And he says, what is it, Amachi? Here, Amachi says Hitsuchi, which actually refers to sheep. The animal on the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac, the Japanese use it as well. And the zodiac is very unique. It has a lot of meaning. So it can mean sheep. It can mean the year of the sheep. It can also mean the time of the day. It can also, in ancient times, mean a direction, which is what he's saying. He's saying 210 degrees southwest. And then he says RuroKen, which is basically 13 meters. So he's giving him an exact direction. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this goes back to the very beginning of the arc with Chapter 8, where Kenshin meets Byakuya. And of course, he goes to Goryokaku. And this is the interesting part, okay? You see Gongo, Doi there, Amachi all together, and they spot Kenshin because they're looking at him. Now, when he comes to Byakuya, of course, we see him greet him, but look, you can see this kind of strange-looking, zodiac symbol, like, surrounding Byakuya. This actually is, 1, a clock, and 2, a hint at Amachi's power, at his kind of battle style. So that's very interesting, and it goes back to as far as when he reveals, what's happening, and he turns around and sees them all. So, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting that it goes back to that chapter. So I just wanted to point that out. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the discussion, but I don't want to touch on it too much. Okay, the next thing. We're talking about 2 panels here. Gongo says, omezame, which basically means you're awake. But at first, when I translated it as you're awake, like you've been sleeping. But no, it actually means it has awakened. And he's referring to the special powers of Amachi, his comrade. So I found that interesting because of this furigana here, omezame, actually means awake, like you've been asleep. But the kanji literally says kakusei. So there are 2 different meanings, but one is a physical awakening and the other one is inside your own body, your power. So anyways, I wanted to point that out. I thought that was pretty cool. So we can see Gongu, he relies on Amachi a lot. He tells him where to go. He gives him all these directions. You can see Ushitora is a tiger, and he gives him more directions, and he blocks them all. So that's pretty cool. Another thing I noticed here is kind of the pit in which Byakuya is at Goryokaku, where he's in the open air prison. But I got that kind of gladiator vibe where he's just ready to attack and ready to show what he's got. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, pretty cool. Byakuya says, I'm getting a little serious. Of course, the fake Yamagata says, I know all about your powers or whatever. So he points all the guns at him, and then he just starts running like a banshee. I mean, Byakuya shows his agility, he shows his speed, he shows his incredible strength. Look at this. Sekiriki not only affects his eyes, but his whole entire body. Look at the flexing of his muscles as, you know, the blood vessels pop out, and then you see all these bullets coming towards him, and he blocks all of them, blocks all the bullets. He just comes at him like a monster. So of course he blocks all of them, and then of course Yamagata regrets everything because he's like, how can we stop this monster? And of course Byakuya just having the time of his life, showing how strong he is. That's a pretty cool scene, by the way, pretty awesome. I had those colored, so you'll see those in the discussion. And then, of course, this scene where you got him basically showing the destruction in the background. Now, we come more to Doi's fight. He's tunneling underground again. But here, we get the first introduction of, yes, it is Anji. Yes, the fallen monk. And Anji says, step back, I got this. Now, the first thing I notice is this. Look at his sword. Normally, it's a small dagger, but it's a little bigger. Now, look at this. It's called the Vajra blade. So, San, Ko, Ken, the three-pronged Vajra blade. Now, what's interesting about this is a kind of a spiritual type weapon that was used by Akalanatha. We're talking about the guy that he worshipped, the one we saw in the battle with Sanosuke. It was a huge statue. So this is pretty cool to see his upgraded sword. And we'll see how powerful he's become. And then, of course, he slams the ground, and it says Rikushin. So Rikushin is actually the name of his technique. Now, it's a shockwave sent by the Futai no Kiwami, so he sends the shock of the Futai no Kiwami through the ground using his sword. That probably sounds familiar because Saito makes this comment during the battle with Sanosuke. As you recall, he uses the blade to catch, to close in the distance, but he calls it Tawate. But actually, Anji's technique is called Rikushin. So that is pretty cool. It's almost like an earthquake shockwave. So I noticed that, and I wanted to point that out. It's pretty much the same as Tawate, but it looks pretty devastating, and it has a big effect, right? It knocks Doi, it shocks Doi, right? And then Gongu comes back, and then we see these bombs flying. Of course, it is Henya and Hiko Happa. So he realizes it. Of course, Amachi's the one who tells him. Again, pretty cool. Then Henya goes on, flies around, and then this is where Anji shows up and is face to face with Doi. So it's setting up the battle between the two. He is not usually a a far away opponent to fight far away, but that blade does help him use long-ranged attacks. Now, of course, Futai no Kiwami up close and personal, so it's interesting because Doi is a tunneler underground, so we're going to get a very unique battle. But anyways, he says, I came here early because my comrades are swift to come like the wind. And then, of course, we get this awesome scene with everyone coming to the rescue. Well, I wouldn't call it the rescue, but coming to the battlefield. And, of course, you got Sho, Kamatari, Ashitaro, Nagakura, Sano, Kenshin and Sojiro. So this kind of gives us a clue at who's going to fight. So Kenshin and Sojiro are going to fight. Sano and Anji are going to fight. Kamatari and Sho are going to fight. And Ashitaro and Nagakura probably going to assist others. So that's pretty cool. We get this scene where they're all shown in the background with Byakuya's group. Byakuya stands over everyone and basically claims he's ready for the fight to continue. He's referring to the original interrogation. And this is a reference to Interrogation, the chapter Interrogation, where Kenshin and Byakuya face off. Of course, Byakuya was holding back. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I like not only the banter between Kenshin, but also Byakuya. So Kenshin mentions here, he says, I'm going to beat you down, and after I do so, this one will make you tell me where the hidden base of Kenkaku Heki. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to end the chapter, especially it gives you that vibe where Kenshin's going to face him alone. Of course, we know that's not the case. We know Kenshin and Sojiro are probably going to face double both of them. They're gonna team up. So, but anyways, that's where the chapter ends. It was a pretty cool chapter. I enjoyed it. But those were the things I noticed. Like I said, Kenshin states there will be no interrogation, no questions during the fight, which is the complete opposite of the previous one. So let's go to that volume and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I think that happens in volume 4. If I'm not mistaken. Let's see, volume 4, yes. So the interrogation, you can see Byakuya versus Kenshin here. And of course, there is a moment where the battle stops, right? So they start asking questions, and that's where we get kind of a break and some developments. And of course, it ends with Kenshin knocking out Byakuya, but of course it was just to test how far he could go, before passing out, which is crazy, right? He wasn't even at full power, but now Byakuya is at full power, so yeah, it's getting pretty crazy. All right, guys, so in my discussion, I will touch further on Ikitozen and what they are and what characters I believe to be Ikitozen, because it's actually mentioned by Nagakura himself. So, so it's mentioned in the previous chapter, and I want to talk about it because it was a request by one of my followers. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my review and look forward to my next video. We'll see you guys in the next one.